Hi everyone, I have a Bible code that I would like to share with you, and this Bible code is actually based on one that I just watched that was done by Rabbi Glazerson. He actually did it a few days ago, but it just came up on my home page and I watched it this morning, and it's titled Donald Will Be Elected 7 Heshvan 5777 in Bible code Glazerson. And so I just watched this video and I was inspired to try to do it in the ASV version of the Bible in the software, Bible Code Wisdom. And I tried putting in Donald elected, but I couldn't get the word elected to come up. I just got the word elect. But I believe it says enough, especially with the way it comes up in the matrix, which I'll show you in just a minute. But I also added this ending, which actually turns the word elect into a noun when you add this ending right here. And I want to talk about that ending in just a minute. But when you put the two parts together, it makes the word election, broken up in two parts. But over here it has Donald win election for, and then president is abbreviated. And then this part right here, of course, this is just an assumption. It's just speculation. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen just because it comes up in the Bible code. This is just my idea, and so I'm just testing it out just to see if it comes up. I'm not making predictions or prophesying or anything like that. I'm just showing you what comes up when you put it in, whether it comes up or not. And so I just put in cut off Adam war, because I'm just speculating that the election is going to be stopped or halted due to an atomic war that might begin before the elections. That's just speculation. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But I just want to show you how this comes up because it's really interesting. As you can see over here, you have the name Donald coming up in ELS form in the light red with the letters D, O, N, A, L, D. And then right within the word Donald, you have the word elect coming up in the lavender at an angle, the letters E, L, E, C, T. And then right in there, you have the term the people. So the people elect Donald is what's coming up in the table, basically. So whether he wins the election or not, it does seem to be apparent that the people elect Donald. And I think the polls are actually showing that. If you watch some of these other videos, like there's a video right here, you'll see that he's actually ahead in the polls, and the people seem to be for Donald, whether he actually wins or not. And then what else is interesting is right here where you have the word win. It's actually part of the word window, but as far as the Bible codes, you have the word win over here, and then going down from the W in win, you have the word war. And then in the burgundy, you have the word atom, which I do believe this will be an atomic war. If a war does break out before the elections, I believe it will be atomic. I believe it will be the Third World War that's about to start. And you see the word atom over here. It's actually sharing the A in Jehovah, the first letter of the word Adam. So you have the letters A, T, O, M. It's interesting that right going through the letter T, you have burnt offering, and then you have burnt offering over here as well, going through the O in Adam. And then over here it says in the name of Jehovah of hosts, and he dealt among all the people, even among the multitude of Israel. And of course, if there is an atomic war, I've talked about in my previous table how that would be the red horse. It would be the second seal, so that would be God's judgment on the people if a war does break out, which it will, based on the book of Revelation. And if you're familiar with the book of Zechariah 5, then you'll know that this is all about nuclear war. It's about a missile, a nuclear missile. And over here, where it's translated as woman, if you look at the Hebrew text, you'll see that it actually means fire offering. Okay, over here where you have the word women or woman, you see that it's the word Isha. It comes from the word Isha, which means woman, and this is according to Strong's number 802. But if you look at Strong's number 801, you'll see that it's the same word. You see that it's the word Isha, and that means burnt offering. And over here it's saying that it's the same as 800. If you look at the word 800, you'll see that that means fire. Okay, so when you go back to the table where you have the word Adam, you see that it has burnt offering going through the T and burnt offering going through the O in Adam. Then you have war right here. At the top it has when above that, and then Jehovah is right under that. And then the Ark of Jehovah. Of course, Jehovah is going to win the war against Satan. Now, what else I thought was interesting about this table is that it came up in the book of Samuel, chapter 6. And I remember reading this matrix before, but I can't for the life of me remember what the Bible code was on where I read this matrix. But I remember talking about how it had to do with the Feast of Tabernacles and how it all seemed to be about the rapture. And like I said, this is in 2 Samuel chapter 6, starting from verse 16 and going through verse 20. But I remember I had pointed out before how this chapter begins, and it begins with saying David gathered together all the chosen or all the elect men of Israel. So it seemed to have connotations of the rapture because it talked about gathering together, and then it was talking about how David pitched a tent or a tabernacle. And you see that mentioned here in verse 17. It says, and they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in his place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And so when you look at the table, in the ASV version, it uses the word tent. You see it right here. It says, and they brought in the ark of Jehovah and set it in its place in the midst of the tent that David had pitched, or the midst of the tabernacle. And this is coming up where you have the term cut off that I had put in up here at the top. You see it's coming up in the yellow. The word cut is coming up in the yellow with the letter C, U, and then the T is the first letter of the word tent or tabernacle. And then you had the word off coming up here in the green. So it's meshed in with the word cut. It's coming up in the same area of text. So you see it here in the green with the letters O, F, F. And it's interesting how it's sharing with off in the text, which is part of offering. Over here twice is sharing with offering. And so I'm going to go ahead and read this part of the matrix, and you might recall that I've read this before, and if anyone can remember what the table was that this matrix came up in, I would love to know, because then I would know what other terms might be in this matrix and what this matrix was about in the other table. But over here, starting with verse 16, going through verse 20 in the second book of Samuel, and it reads, "And it was so, as the ark of Jehovah came into the city of David, that Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before Jehovah, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of Jehovah and set it in its place in the midst of the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Jehovah. And when David had made an end of offering the burnt offering and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of Jehovah of hosts. And he dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, both to men and women, to every one a cake of bread and a portion of flesh and a cake of raisins. So all the people departed, every one to his house. And David returned to bless his household. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself. And so over here you have the term, like I said, you have the term the people right where it says elect, and right where you have Donald, but you also have the people departed. And this entire matrix, if you read it from the beginning, it seems to be alluding to the rapture. It's all about rejoicing. It's about the Feast of Tabernacles. You see David was dancing and rejoicing, and David is a type of the Messiah in the Old Testament. He's talking about the Ark of the Covenant, and I remember when I had read this before, I had mentioned where it talks about the Ark of the Covenant in the book of Revelation. That would be in Revelation 11:19. It actually uses the word testament instead of covenant, but they both mean the same thing. And it says, And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings, and an earthquake and great hail. And this is coming up in the book of Revelation, which talks about the seventh seal, or the seventh angel, or the seventh trumpet, the seventh angel sounding the seventh trumpet. And then it talks about the wrath of God in verse 18, where it says, And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou should givest reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And so all of this was coming up in another table that I did recently, but I can't remember what the table was on. But it's also coming up in this table where you have Donald, elect, win, and you have the abbreviation for president over here in the green with the letters P, R, E, S, and the E is sharing the E in elect. And I'm about out of time, so I'm going to have to end this video, but I may continue with more in another video. Thank you.